Hey guys, Vape Diver here. Got a review on another RTA. This one is the erlkoenigin. Great tank, been running for about 3 weeks. Got some really cool features. I'm excited about this one. This is a great tank. RTAs are my thing. And this one, piqued my attention. Figured I'd give it a shot. Forked out the dough. And let me tell you, I'm not disappointed. This is a great tank. Innovative, the technology in this this tank is really cool. So show you guys how I'm setting it up, how it vapes, and this is something for you guys to take a look at. It's an awesome tank. Let's do a build on this. Hey guys, just a little frame of reference here. Here's a wick that I just pulled out of the Erlk. And this wick's been in for a few days, and just kind of wanted to show you these wick tails of how delicate and thin they really are. There's not much to them. Those are saturated and in real time. That's how they will reach down into the channels there. But you can just see how thin those tails really are. I just kind of wanted to show you that. Here you go guys, the erlkoenigin. Simple box, simple design, nice atomizer. This is your basic, what you get for your about $170 polycarbonate tank, 21 millimeter tank. Holds about 6 mils comfortably, so it's got a great capacity. Comes with one drip tip. I believe the newer ones are stainless steel. That's what I heard. This is Delrin, and they're just not basic drip tips. They have threads on them which open and close. That's one great feature about this tank is the fill. You could see you're closed off, you're opened up. So basically you close it up, you screw down the drip tip, which tightens that, sandwiches it in there, and then when you want to add some juice, you loosen up the drip tip, quarter turn, you fill it, boom, awesome. So that's the drip tip. It's got the threads on it. They offer a couple other nice drip tips for extra that you can get with this. Or you can buy the adapter, which has the threads on it, so you can use your own drip tip into that. And that's what I got. So, I can use that. I could use my my favorite drip tips in there, and good to go. So, 6 mil capacity. I've heard of even more, but you never really want to fill them up. More than that, 3/4 of the way anyways. Compare it to a K-Fun. So it's a good bit smaller and holds a lot more. And we got a smaller version coming out of this fairly soon. So that'd be good, like a nano kit for that, which is going to really make it, probably the capacity of a K-Fun and half the size of a K-Fun. So that's exciting. So yeah, that's it. Regular, plastic tank, and you got the threaded top here. So once you take off your drip tip or your adapter, you just unscrew this top piece, which unscrews from the chimney, and that's in 2 pieces. So that's like a little, the covers up the 2 fill holes here, and it's pretty neat. And then basically you just got a long chimney O-ring here at the top, and that unscrews from the deck, And then you got this ring here, which is, I don't know, they call it a seismological feed management system. I guess, you know, it keeps the right amount of juice and pressure maintained between this washer thing and the bottom. You know, when the tank's full, it keeps the, you know, that area of the juice under there at the right pressure, you know, to prevent, you know, any flooding or gurgling into the mod. Some technology there that's pretty cool. And it holds your wick tails in. So, and then you got your air control AFC ring here, which is your air control is adjusted by turning this black Delrin, screwing it in or out. You want some really good airflow, you know, you open it up, you could even take it off. I actually vape it completely off, no problem. So that's the AFC air control valve. So really that's basically your parts, your pieces and parts, your basic setup for the erlkoenigin. You can get the glass tank as an option, 21 mil, just like the plastic, and frosted or clear. And then you can, they have 3 metal tanks, which I got one on order. I like the 21 millimeter size. So they come in 21, 22, and 23 millimeter tanks. You can get all 3 as an option with really cool logoing on the side. Don't have it to show you. This is mainly going to be about the build in this tank, so let's get on that. But yeah, you can see the kind of a neat design on the build deck. You got your channels, and you know, you keep your coil right on your drill bit. You can just slide it right in there. It kind of gets held by these 2 top channels, so it's really neat setting it up. You got your positive post here. It's really non-adjustable, but they do sell a little extra washer thingy. You can, if you need to extend that 510 connection out a little bit, it's a few bucks. Comes with a little special washer. Take this off, slide that washer in, and extends the post a little bit. So show you how I set it up. So what's really cool about setting this up, I got that coil in there, cleaned it up a little bit. You know, you can keep your bit. She fits right on those channel grooves, nice and stationary, while you go ahead and tighten those screws. Really, really cool. And you know, I kind of like on this particular atomizer to connect the leads around this side of the screw and around that side of the screw. It just keeps the coil in a better, you know, tight position. I had it set up where the coil lead come off of this side and then sneak between this post and around, and it's just kind of throwing that lead on an angle, and it wasn't keeping tight with the coil. So you know, it's a little bit more of a pain, because as you tighten this up, you know, the lead wants to come out. It doesn't tighten up as you tighten the screw up, but seems to work the best. So definitely you need a clockwise direction on your coil when you wrap it, and then I like to connect the lead of the coil so it comes around and stops here, and then you could cut it off at between the post here. So really nice feature on these with the getting your bit in there and setting it down in those grooves, and it kind of sets the height of your coil. So a lot easier to set up a coil on this than, let's say, a K-Fun. The coil, that is. Maybe not the wicking, but at least the coiling, the coil. So we'll go ahead and set up a wicking here. So guys, I'm using the Kojando pads. I don't know if you've seen them, but they come in pads like that. Really nice. You just cut off a strip, and you know, once you're used to a certain size coil, you know about how much of a strip to cut off, and you just cut off a strip, and real easy. A lot easier than the cotton balls, in my opinion. A little bit of flavor to them, because all the fibers are running, all the same way, nice and neat. So I think it wicks a little bit better. So I got a piece on here, slid it through the coil, and with any coil, you want to get that, just right. You want it to still slide back and forth fairly easy with a little bit of resistance. You don't want it bunched up in there where you can barely pull that, because you gotta remember, once this coil gets saturated, it's gonna blow up even more. So you want that to move fairly freely in that coil. So that's a start. And we'll show you how to cut down. You just can't, on this atomizer, you can't just stick these wicks down these channels. You need very, very little bit of wicking in those channels, unless it just ain't going to work right. So I'll show you how I separate those wick tails and trim them down to position them just right in those channels. So first thing to remember on this erlk is, you can see the wick channel. It comes up from the side, comes up, and then makes a bend. Okay, so you want a point of reference right here where this wick channel starts at the very top. Okay, you want a point of reference straight across this top. Okay, and you're going to cut this wick, the wick's diameter. You're going to cut the top half of it, take the diameter and cut the thickness of this tail all the way to that reference point that I was just showing you, the top of that channel. You're basically just cutting that tail in half from top to bottom. Okay? You got the top half and you got the bottom half of the tail. And you want to make that incision to a point even with the top of that reference where I said that top of the channel is. So we'll make that incision. To that point, and then we'll just go ahead and cut the top of that off. Okay, so now this top part is bushy, and then you got this tail coming out. Now that bushy shoulder, we'll call that a shoulder at the top, looking straight down. That shoulder where we made that incision shouldn't come out past the top of that channel. So now you're left with one side of that wick, okay? And we even got to trim that further. So basically I like to trim off the two sides of it. Okay, it's still too thick. So what I'll do is trim a little off of each side to the same point that we cut the top half off it. So that's one side. And then we're going to cut a little off the other side. And you can see what you're left here now. You got a shoulder, and you got the little tiny tail coming in the middle and the bottom. That's all you need in them channels. We'll go ahead and do the other side. This is the most important part of this erlk, is getting this wicking right. If this wick ain't right, you just don't have the play, let's say, of a K-fun build, where if you had a little extra in the tails, you know, you can kind of get away with it. This one, you know, it's a little bit more build specific. So once you get it down like anything else, you know, it doesn't take too much time. So, you know, you got that point of reference, which is the very top of that channel, and you can see how my shoulder starts right there. Real fluffy at the top, single little wick at the bottom. We're going to go ahead and do this for the other side. Basically left with fibers at this point. Then you want to measure, you know, the length of them. You want them to hit just a little bit below, you know, a little bit above the very bottom there. Just a smidgen above that. So just kind of get a little mark there. So they call this remaining wick at the top, this higher part, like a buffer. Little guy will suck up the juice, and it's kind of kept in that thicker part. You know, it's a little reservoir. I like to think of it as also as a lot of these tanks, you know, you take the K-fun, has a little, you know, channel coming up. You don't really stick that wick down into that channel. You stick it up at the deck and you keep it up top. Well, this is the top part, okay? If you were to stick a wick down the side in that channel of the K-fun, it would just suffocate itself. This one's a little different, you know, because it has a longer way to go. So, you know, we take a little bit of the tail and we do stick it in the channel. But it's nothing like, let's say, the Aqua, where you could stick a full tail in it. Not like that at all. So that's the design of the wick right there. It's basically not much of the wick tails that actually go into the channels. So that's it, guys. We're going to put some juice on this bad boy and just enjoy the vapor and the flavor from this device. So I saturated the wick and Try to get a real close up here. You know, I've seen some videos where, you know, they just take the tail and they kind of make the bottom a point and just cut it on an angle. But here's the important part. This wick has to be thin all the way up to this top part. It only gets thicker right there. If it's too thick, even at this point here, it's not going to wick right. So basically you got a real bushy, you know, top. And starting from right there, you just got a very thin piece of wick down there. That's all you need. That's all you need. And you don't want that wick coming out, you know, protruding past those threads right there. I mean, that wick is like halfway in there. So just trying to give you an idea of how much or how little you actually need or don't need in there. And there's other ways. I mean, I like the cotton. I like the Japanese cotton. I like the flavor, you know, so, you know, I go ahead and spend the time and trim these wicks down. You know, there's other ways of doing it with silica, you know, or cotton yarn, where you're using, you know, a set amount. You know, with the yarn, you can get in, you know, a certain amount of strands, and there's not as much guesswork involved. But hey, guys, that's the wick for the erlkoenigin, and we're going to button it up and do some vaping. I'm going to go ahead and saturate these real good before buttoning it up. And yeah, we'll take a few vapes and button up the video. Alright, putting her back. We put the little ringer guy on there. Kind of holds in the wick tails and creates that pressure gap that supposed to keep the pressure that's allowed into the tank pretty consistent, no matter, you know, how much juice is actually in that tank. You know, and then we go ahead and you know, button it back together. You got the chimney, little washer guy up top, or sometimes you'll see it in its rightful place. In there. That's kind of how it seats, but it seems to not matter if it stays in there or stays on top of the chimney. It kind of you know, presses in there anyway. So you know, we'll go ahead and, you know, mount the chimney back in there once the ring's back on. And I'm going to go ahead and put the glass tank on. I got the glass tank with it as an option. Like I said, I'm waiting for the metal tank, which has some really nice logo in on it. So I like to just wet that just a little bit in case the O-rings are a little dry. Snap that back on there. And then you have your top, first portion of your top cap. Go ahead and screw that down. And here's your little valve. And you can use that tighten down the rest of the way. That's it. We'll go ahead and screw the drip tip adapter. I got the plain one. You can also get the one with the crown markings on it. This allows you to use your own drip tip. Just a plain old drip tip for me. Very basic. I mean, look at all that room. I mean, it's great. Very simple design, but very effective. So we'll go ahead and fill it up. Hey guys, another feature some of you may or may not care too much about is the ability to work on the coil or change the wick without removing the juice. Can't really be done on the K-Fun. I do it on my Aquas, and it's really fantastic. So, this you can. Once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. You take your drip tip off. You go ahead and loosen up your drip tip adapter or drip tip, and once you loosen that up, you go ahead and open the vent holes, and you go ahead and loosen that up a little bit. Okay, holding the bottom, you loosen that top thread a few times. Okay, then tighten back down the drip tip. And then turn it again, and then tighten it again. And you see what just happened there? It just broke free from the threads, okay? See that? Okay, so at that point, you got juice in here now, so you make sure, you're closed off at the top before you do anything else. Go ahead and close your holes, okay? And then you see how that's turning? Now from here, you can go ahead. You've loosened them up a little bit by doing that. So you press the tank, the glass, down on those threads. Now, there ain't gonna leak out of there, but when you loosen that up, you did create a little gap. But the juice isn't going to leak. So once you got that little gap there and you see you've spun that, you go ahead and you press that tank. You heard the click. Once you do that, you just go ahead and unscrew the base. And there you go. You can work on it. So just a little information there on that. It takes a little practice. But once you get it, it's really pretty simple. It's just a few steps. So a good little feature. I mean, especially when you first learning how to do this, you're going to sit there for a few times and be changing your wicks, trying to get it right. So just thought I might share that with you. So guys, real easy. Filling this baby up. You got 2 holes. One lets the pressure come out so you don't flood that atomizer, so the chimney. So once you're ready to fill this thing up, don't dilly-dally around. Get that juice in there. When you're done, give that a quarter turn, tighten up your drip tip, and she's filled. Some information shows to do the initial fill, not refills, but the initial fill. Maybe if your wick isn't right in there or whatever, they tell you to, before filling, go ahead and close off the juice, the air control valve on the bottom. Completely shut it off. Fill it. Close it up, turn it upside down, crack the AFC open, and then, you know, turn it right side back up, and I guess that's supposed to, you know, sort of let, you know, air, you know, equal out in the tank. But I've never had that issue before, so I just fill it up the way I showed you. I have no issues. I leave the valve open and fill it. So that's it. That's the erlkoenigin, man. You know, a good. I wish I had the metal tank to show you. This doesn't really do it justice. I do have a picture. I don't know how this would come out right there, but you know, that's the tanks that you can get as an option in 21, 22, or 23 millimeters. Really cool tanks. So that's definitely, I got one on order, and you know, the erlkoenigin, man, it's high wattage. I mean, you could run, I've run in 30 watts in this thing, and it's wicking like a beast. Flavor, unbelievable. Sometimes you got that, you know, that little ring there at the bottom. Sometimes you'll see a little air bubble there that doesn't want to kind of, you know, move away from the hole. And that may stop a little juice from getting in there. So, you know, you just want to tilt it like that. That air bubble will disappear. And IB Tanked makes replacement glass tanks for this in all different designs. Really cool. And last, I mean, I can't wait for the nano kit to come out in this, which is going to probably hold about 4 mils and be half the size of the K-Fun. So really looking forward to that. So we'll button this up. I'm going to hook it up and, you know, take a few vapes and call it a video. So that's it. The erlkoenigin. Really enjoying the vape on this tank, guys. Really produces some thick vapor, excellent flavor. I love the open draw on it. It's adjustable. You can take that AFC out, and you got a draw, you know, approaching like the fogger. I hate to say it, I own 4 K-Funs, I love them, but this outperforms the K-Fun in a lot of ways. Airflow, the amount of power you can get to it, tank capacity, flavor, vapor. I mean, I wouldn't say it's, you know, miles ahead by any means, but it does. It is the best performing tank I've had to date. And if you got one, hopefully, you know, something in there helped a little bit, especially the wicking. I know it's tricky at first. Or if you don't, and you're looking for a new RTA, the Queen is the one. Really, really good. So we'll button it up, and hope you enjoyed the video.